Today I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to talk with Dr. Dick Thompson, the founder and president of High Performing Systems and co-editor with my partner James Terrell and myself on the Handbook for Developing Emotional Intelligence. And I'm going to start with first asking Dick about the handbook itself and giving us an overview. Thanks for joining us, Dick.
Oh, thanks for having me here. I've been talking to people at the EI conference about the book, and they're all very excited because I think this particular book is one that doesn't focus on just one model. It focuses on EI in general. It brings together 20-something of the most prominent people in the field as authors within the book. It covers a broad range of material from looking at teams to looking at individuals, both internationally and here in the U.S. It's just an excellent resource for anyone working in the field.
It is, isn't it? And it's full of practical tips that people can really use. They can take them out and use it right away, don't you think?
Yeah, and that was one of the requirements to put a chapter in, was to have that practical, hands-on part at the end.
Right.
So you could actually use what people were talking about.
Exactly. We had a real best practices focus, didn't we? And it was good to do. Well, let's take best practices into your chapter, Dick. And we're talking with Dick about his chapter on catastrophic leadership failure. And in today's world of stress, that is a major topic. Stress and catastrophic leadership failure. How's it come together?
Well, if you look around at what's been happening in the last 24 months or so, with the failure of financial institutions and the global impact and large organizations in general, you could speculate that there's been some poor decisions made somewhere along the line. But at the same time, when you look at the people who run these large organizations, they're not dummies. I mean, these are very bright people who've worked their way up into the organizations, and they have some very difficult decisions that they have to make. And what catastrophic leadership failure looks at is the impact of stress on decision making. And one of the things that our research has shown is that as your stress level goes up, we know that it starts to have an impact on your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive center of the brain and where your logical reasoning happens. And as the stress level goes up, you begin to lose some of the access to your prefrontal cortex. So your cognitive abilities start to decrease. So you could say, in a sense, your IQ starts to go down. Our research also indicates that when that starts to happen, that you also begin to lose access to some of your emotional intelligence. So really, both of them are starting to go down. And we found that when you hit a certain level of stress with both your IQ and your EQ down, that there's what we call a catastrophic cliff, catastrophic edge that you can fall off and all of a sudden make some really unwise decisions. And we've demonstrated in some of the research that we've done, on a small scale, that happens to individuals, it happens to leaders, and you can see in large organizations where people all of a sudden who have been making really good decisions just dramatically change and start making decisions that are not so smart. And that's kind of the premise of the catastrophic leadership failure.
That makes sense, and I'll bet it can even affect a whole organization. So it almost becomes contagious in several of the leaders in an organization.
Right, because we talk about, very often what the CEO does, but in reality, leadership takes place all down through the organization.
Right.
And as the stress goes up, it doesn't matter what level of the organization, I'm in. When my stress level goes up, all of a sudden, I start making decisions that are not so smart. So it just permeates the whole organization, and now you have an organization that's not making wise decisions. So we give out loans to people who shouldn't be giving loans or have loans, and we just make a lot of unwise decisions that we might not make, if we were not so stressed.
So in terms of best practices with this, is part of it managing our stress and beginning to notice at the beginning, I'm getting stressed and I'm willing to put some time into managing this factor of my whole person, the stress engagement?
Yeah, the first step, like most things, is self-awareness, education, knowing that it exists, beginning to assess yourself and realize and become aware of when you're your cognitive functioning is starting to change. You know, when you're starting to feel a little tense, you're feeling anxiety, and be able to have some self-talk that, wow, I might not need that next cup of coffee,
Yeah.
because the caffeine might raise my stress level a little higher. So I might say I need a timeout. I need to get up and walk down the hall for 5 minutes and walk around and calm down a little bit, or do some deep breathing exercises. So I need to begin to engage in a set of actions that can help me maintain my cognitive functioning, which helps me maintain my emotional functioning at the same time. You know, what I eat, how much rest I get, the support group that I have, my self-awareness, the exercise that I do,
Right.
all of those contribute to me being more resilient and more resistant to stress, and you know, be able to operate at a higher intellectual and emotional capacity within, you know, my role as a leader.
And I see that that's such an important point to get through, because what I've noticed for many people, and quite frankly experienced it myself sometimes, is I'll have less stress if I just get this done.
Right.
So I'll just stay focused even though I feel stressed. And the truth is, from what I'm hearing from you, if I'll actually break state, shift, pull away for a while, breathe, whatever, walk, and then come back.
Yeah, sometimes you need a short break.
Yeah.
There's some research available that says that you need a 5-minute break, at least, of physical movement every hour. So if you get up and just walk down the hall and walk around, at least every hour. There's some other research that suggests maybe every 20 minutes you need something like that,
Wow.
just to give your brain a rest. Again, we know from the research that the brain is consuming so much energy
Right.
that you can burn up the carbohydrates that you have available for it, and you'll start to get a decrease in your cognitive performance, you know, fairly quickly. So what you eat makes an impact on how long you can go before you need, you know, to take a short break.
Interesting, interesting. What you eat helps you know how long you can really think and perform in that cognitive way.
Yeah, there's been some experiments done where people were fed an energy drink,
Right.
you know, that's loaded with sugar,
Uh-huh.
versus the same drink with a non-sugar sweetener like, you know, aspartame or something in it. And what they found was the people who got the sugar performed better cognitively than the people who got the drink without the sugar, because they didn't have enough energy to complete a, you know, relatively complex task.
Interesting.
And you know, when you start to go down in your ability to think, then that's when you predispose yourself to making poor decisions.
Right. So we need to get in the habit of taking a break, feed
Take a
our
break
brain.
and eat. You know, we know that school children do better in school if they have breakfast.
Oh, yeah, of
They
course.
get the carbohydrates, they
Right.
go in, and you know, they function better. Leaders do too.
Yeah.
So
We are all people, aren't we?
Yeah, and we don't outgrow it. So.
That's good. Yeah, we don't want to outgrow being people.
Right.
I agree with that one. Well, thank you so much for your discussion of the catastrophic leadership failure. And I know that you're beginning a project to write a book on this for Josie Bass.
Yeah, it'll be coming out next year.
Congratulations.
And it'll look at the impact of stress on people making decisions. And it'll explore the neuroscience as well as, you know, the other aspects of decision making. So,
Great.
so far, it's been fascinating to see what we've found and how it's working.
I can hardly wait to read it. And now I'm going to actually shift topics,
Okay.
Dick, if I may, because you're also the publisher of the measure that James Terrell and I have created, the Team Emotional and Social Intelligence Survey. TESSI is what we call it. A chance for teams to really kind of take a 360 look at their sense of their performance. How are they doing? What's your take on the TESSI?
Well, I think it's a logical extension of what we do with emotional intelligence. So when we think about an individual having a certain level of emotional intelligence, if you just extend that to the team level,
Yeah.
what you find is teams have emotional intelligence. What's been missing to date is a tool that you could actually assess the emotional intelligence of a team. In the past, you would just kind of average up, you know, the individuals, but with the TESSI, you have an opportunity now to actually measure, you know, where the team is on emotional intelligence. And you know, from what I've seen, you know, from the instrument that you've created and the work that you've been doing with it, it performs, really well in giving excellent feedback to a team, because when you look at how they score on a TESI and then how the team is performing, you get that high correlation, and then to make it even stronger, the team members all then say, yeah, that is how we perform.
That's true.
They're surprised sometimes
Mm-hmm.
with how accurate the instrument is in
Yeah.
terms of describing your actual behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that to be a very powerful tool to
Right.
use with teams.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being the publisher of the TESI and for all the good work you contribute.
Thank you. Appreciate what you've done.
You're welcome.
Thank you.